Hey guys, this is James with RogueDuelist Trade, and on this channel we talk about current and upcoming Yu-Gi-Oh product and whether or not you should invest your money in order to profit. Today is the second episode of our series on 5 pros and cons for all different types of Yu-Gi-Oh product. In our first episode we covered core sets, and in today's episode we are going to be covering deck building sets. Guys, if you enjoy content on modern Yu-Gi-Oh product, make sure you stop and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now, if you watch this video and enjoy it, make sure you hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm to help spread this content so we can grow this channel together. And if you guys would like more information on the RogueDuelist Trade Patreon in partnership with Pro Play Games, I'll let you guys know what Yu-Gi-Oh product we currently have open for pre-orders at near wholesale rates towards the end of this video. All right, so let's jump right in. I want to provide a quick overview of deck building sets before we jump into the 5 pros and cons. So, because I know not a lot of people are familiar with all the different terms that we have in Yu-Gi-Oh, such as core sets, deck building sets, LED sets, Battles of Legends sets, etc. So let me give you some quick points. I should preface Toon Chaos. So Toon Chaos was not a deck building set, it was a side set, but Toon Chaos has now set the structure, at least from what we understand from now into the near future, of what deck building sets are going to look like. So if you guys are watching this video and you aren't familiar with that, deck building set structure is going to change and mirror very similarly to Toon Chaos, starting with Genesis Impact. So we get about 2 deck building sets every single year. We also get something that's been coined as side sets, which is very similar again in structure like Toon Chaos, but we're not going to go in detail on that in this video. What's very unique about this product is that we always get 3 brand new archetypes that come into the game. Now, many times these archetypes can be very meta shifting, such as Eldritch and Emancipator Sky Striker, but many times they aren't. Deck building sets have historically been 60 card sets where we typically get anywhere between 35 to 40 new cards, which is usually in support of 3 of the new archetypes coming in the product. And we also get roughly 20 to 25 reprints of cards that either indirectly or directly support some of these new archetypes or some meta relevant cards. So previously we used to get 5 cards per pack and we'd get 1 foil and 4 commons, but that has now changed where we are going to be getting 7 cards per pack with 1 foil and 6 rares. The foils in these products can now either be super rare, ultra rare, or what is now coined as collector's rare. And going into that, collector's rare is now being introduced in deck building sets and started in Toon Chaos. We'll be getting up to 15 different collector rares, and I believe the ratio is roughly 1 every 4 display boxes in a case, or roughly 3 collector rares per case. And something else to note similar to core product is that deck building sets come into the OCG before they come into the TCG. Now, sometimes the set might be slightly different as to what type of reprints might come inside of the product. Also, I believe we get collector rares in this product while the OCG kind of has their own way of doing rarities. That's important so we know what's going to be coming into the product before it actually hits the TCG. And some examples of deck building sets, as I mentioned, Genesis Impact, Secret Slayers, Mystic Fighters, and Infinity Chasers. All right, so let's jump into the 5 pros of deck building sets. And guys, these pros and cons are definitely biased to me. So guys, let me know down in the comments below if there's any pros and cons that you would add. Pro number 1, new archetypes with lots of new support for those archetypes. So as I mentioned during the overview, we get 3 new archetypes in every deck building set. And lots of times, these archetypes can potentially shift our meta and what is considered top tier in the meta. Some really good examples is that Emancipators and Eldritch. Those 2 archetypes were leading in our meta as soon as Secret Slayers came out. Another good archetype is actually Sky Strikers. Sky Strikers had stormed the meta for quite some time until Engage got banned. And to that point, if somebody wants to build any of these new archetypes, you can find all of the current support in this product. So if you are a vendor and you buy cases of this product, you're more than likely going to be having more people buying more than 1 card or 1 set of cards from you. They very well may be buying the entire deck core from you because you're able to open up all that product and get it all in one fell swoop within that deck building set. Pro number 2 is now that we have the chance of pulling collector rares, which was something that was not in deck building sets in the past. Collector rares somewhat similar to Starlight rares, but not nearly as hard to get. gives you added value in your pulls as a vendor to where it helps you get a higher ROI if you're able to get some of the bigger chased after collector rares. Until we actually start seeing collector rares coming in this product, right now I'm calling it out as a pro, and hopefully Konami does their homework and does a good job when they do it. And to that point, collector rares just adds another level of collectability in this product. It adds some level of collector value in terms of having different rarities that people can collect, which does increase value for the product. And also with collector rares, clumping is not as much of an issue because now that you can get roughly 3 in every single case, it's very unlikely for you to get a case that doesn't have any collector rares at all. Pro number 3, as I mentioned at the early parts of this video, is that it comes into the OCG first, very similar to core product. Although the OCG kind of has a semi-different format than we do because their card pool is a little bit different, we can see how well some of these archetypes perform before they actually come into the TCG, and we can just see what the archetypes are in general before we have to commit pre-orders in the TCG if we get leaks in the OCG soon enough in order to meet distributor pre-order windows. So again, that gives us in the TCG a bit of an advantage from an investment perspective, or at least from a vending perspective when you're buying and wanting to flip product, to make sure you get a greater level of confidence before you go and invest in a certain product. Pro number 4 is the fact that we now get 7 cards per pack versus 5. Now previously, deck building sets was an all foil product where you got 4 commons and a secret rare, but now we get 6 rares and the potential of getting a foil. Now the reason why that's good is because supers were basically just bulk anyways in previous deck building sets. Now that they're coming as rares, but we're also getting more of some of the lower rarity cards now by getting a chance of getting 6 versus 4 per pack, I see that as a good thing because look at cards like Ciphering Gear Gamma that came out in Toon Chaos. That card quickly shot up to about a $4 rare as soon as Ciphering Gamma started seeing some more play in the current meta format. So having cards like that is just free value in my perspective. It doesn't really matter whether they're super rare or rare. The fact that we're just getting more cards per pack as a rare, and if they're good cards, again, that's more free value. Pro number 5 for this video is the potential of getting more generic meta tech cards as reprints in this product. Now, for the most part, I'm a little more jaded towards products that are predominantly reprints, and the reason why is because when you keep reprinting cards, the value of the reprinted card is likely going to be lower than the current value of their predecessors. But in this product, the fact that we can get some meta level cards as lower rarities. Cards like Solemn Judgment, even as a super rare, it was actually overprinted, not underprinted, and it was roughly $2 on release of Secret Slayers. So I would say in this case, the fact that they are coming in lower rarities, if Konami continues to do a good job of getting reprints of some good meta level cards that are going to be here format to format, that's just free value for cards that would normally be considered bulk. All right, so now we're gonna jump into the 5 cons for deck building sets. Con number 1, very similar to core sets, there is a high possibility of getting reprints of some of the higher value cards that come in deck building sets in products such as Battles of Legend and Megatons. This makes holding some of the higher value cards in those products, maybe aside from collector's rare, not necessarily a good idea because as reprints come out, as I mentioned, that dilutes value. You probably want to sell those cards anywhere between immediately on market launch up to no later than 11 months or whatever it is of whenever certain cards in the product might get reprinted. Again, and it also makes it to where holding sealed product is not as desirable, but there is the possibility that collector rares may change that depending on what collector rares come in the product. Con number 2 is the fact that roughly 30 to 35% are reprints. Now, as I mentioned before, this can also be a pro depending on what the reprints are, but also it's not that great because those reprinted cards may not have a lot of value depending on what the cards are. Again, it depends on how many times those cards are being reprinted, and I think it's just rule of thumb that in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Reprints aren't really good in terms for long-term value. Con number 3 is the possibility of getting low impact cards, and that's probably a con in any type of product. But if you look at something like Infinity Chasers, this was a product that didn't really have anything that shaped the meta in any way, shape, or form, and I think you can probably pick them up cheaper than what presale value was for that product. So these sets really can perform very bad if we are not getting any type of meta shifting archetypes that come into the product. Con number 4 is that deck building sets are kind of notorious for short prints. So some of the better cards that come in some of these newer archetypes almost always have been short printed. Now, we don't know if that's going to change. It's kind of changed for core product, but we haven't really seen that change in deck building sets as of yet. A lot of those better, higher value cards are usually short printed. And this also really depends on how many chase cards there really are. If there are multiple chase cards and each of them are short printed, at least you have a higher chance of getting some of the chase cards. But if there's a very limited amount of chase cards, then again, short printing really sucks when you buy deck building set, in addition to really any product. In con number 5, mapping is still an issue in deck building sets as it is with core sets. Now, I would argue it may not be as bad because your chances of getting collector rares are higher. Now, I'm not necessarily sure if collector rares replace the ultra rares that you get in deck building sets, but regardless, mapping is an issue, which is definitely why if you are a vendor, buying cases is definitely the better way to go. And if you are just a casual player and like to buy product, never buy loose booster packs online. You definitely want to be buying display boxes. So in conclusion, again, if you are a casual player and just like to buy product, it's definitely better to buy displays, as I mentioned. And I actually would recommend to buy displays, and you could buy singles if that's the path you would rather go. And usually buying singles is the better way to go, so you make sure you get the cards you want. With deck building sets, if you're wanting to build 1, 2, or all 3 of the archetypes coming in that product, you could buy 3 to 4 display boxes and you might get a playset of most of the core, although you do need to consider that you may not see some of those bigger chase cards. You might get 1 or 2, but you might not get a playset of the cards that may be short printed. Now, as I mentioned, if you are a vendor, always buy cases. You don't want to run the risk of somebody just pulling collector rares and selling you display boxes. And as another conclusion point, very similar to core sets, it really depends on what is actually coming in the product. How many meta altering archetypes are actually coming in the product, similar to Eldritch, Sky Striker, and Adamancipator? Are there any strong meta reprints coming in the product that could just be free value in the lower rarity cards? And also, what cards are coming as collector rares? And unfortunately, you likely won't know that information when you're pre-ordering for that product. We probably will find out collector rares closer to market launch. But that really can decide whether or not you might want to actually hold on to the product you invested in as sealed if there's any potential, similar to Toon Chaos, for how good those collector rares are. And if pre-orders haven't passed yet, how well are some of these new archetypes performing in the OCG? That's always something that you want to look into. It could indicate what the performance might look like in the TCG, and also indicate what demand might look like if the performance could be good. So guys, that's the end of the video. What do you guys think about this series in general? Are you guys enjoying this? Is this helpful for you? And then also, what do you think about deck building sets? What are your pros and cons? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, as I mentioned, guys, if you guys are interested in getting product at near wholesale rates and you're serious about getting into Yu-Gi-Oh vending, then you guys should highly consider the RDT Patreon in partnership with Pro Play Games. Right now, we currently have Blazing Vortex up for pre-order. We have Freezing Chains, the new structure deck that's coming. We have that up for pre-order as well. If you guys are interested, write me some comments down below if you guys have any specific questions on those pre-orders. And we're more than likely going to be getting some very limited first come, first serve of second and third waves of pre-orders for product like Phantom Rage, Genesis Impact, Legendary Duelist Season 2, and Maximum Gold. Now, again, I can't promise that those limited waves are going to be available, and if they are, they're going to be extremely limited, first come, first serve, as I said. Now, again, if you guys want to see different content from me, such as Yu-Gi-Oh skits or other fun Yu-Gi-Oh content, make sure you subscribe to RogueDuelist TV. Links for RogueDuelist TV and the RDT Patreon are down in the description below. So guys, thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and we'll see you on the next video on RogueDuelist Trade.